internet. I have returned in a recording capacity of some kind. Yes, that is right. It is that time of the year again. The fall is upon us. And wait, there's still no content? Oh, I'm just kidding. The Emmys just got pushed to January, which gives me plenty of time in order to flex, as I am not part of any of the unions that are currently striking, or at least they may have reached a resolution by the time that this video actually goes up. Who the hell knows? But it is time for the 4th annual Talkin TV Awards, my stupid little award show that I started 4 years ago right on this channel in order to honor what I think is the best in television. I had so much fun putting it out to the public and having you guys vote on it last year that I did the same thing again for this year, and just given the caliber of TV that we had this past TV year, oh my god. TV is always such a weird scenario because you have to take the shows that air within a certain calendar year, but then you have to compare that to shows that aired within a certain Emmy ceremony, so you'll sometimes have shows that'll be eligible for Emmys, but not eligible for Best of the Year. It's very, very confusing, but I can definitively say that the television year of 2022 to 2023 easily all-time year. We had a lot of great shows debut, a lot of great shows wrapping up, a lot of great shows hitting their middle of the year, sophomore stride. I added a couple new categories this year. I think you guys are really going to enjoy them. And without further ado, let's get to it. This is the 4th annual Talkin TV Awards. But first, a few moments of silence for the recently departed TV shows. Kicking it off with the perfect kickoff category, Best Debut Show, the premiere show that had the most impactful and memorable premiere season. Nominees are Andor on Disney+, The Bear on FX and Hulu, Beef on Netflix, Bupkis on Peacock, House of the Dragon on HBO, The Last of Us on HBO, Shrinking on Apple TV+, and Swarm on Amazon. And the winner with 11 votes is The Bear. I will say that for me personally, this was not my favorite of the debut shows. I personally would have probably picked Andor or House of the Dragon, but I definitely understand why a lot of people went for this. This show just hit with an electric shock, a jolt right to the back of your neck. There was no other show that had ever been made that was quite like it. No show that I'd ever seen before that so perfectly mixed the idea of cooking with complete mental dysfunction. Never did in a million years would I imagine a show would be able to combine all of these things. I thought the first season was pretty good. I thought this past was even better. It knocked it out of the park, but it absolutely deserves the win. Congratulations for The Bear for your first ever Talkin TV. Next up, we have a brand new award, which I just decided to come up with this year. For years, I've complained about the Oscars not having any sort of an award to reward massive ensemble casts. We always reward individual performances, but we never reward the entirety of the cast as a whole, because let's face it, there's very few times that an individual performance stands up above the rest, especially on TV, when you have usually so many different characters, so many different storylines working in conjunction with one another in order to make the story the best that it can possibly be. So I decided to add this award this year in order to honor it. This is the first ever category that I've introduced for Best Ensemble Cast in the Talkin TVs. This is Talkin TV history right here that we're making. And the nominees are Andor, Barry, Better Call Saul, The Boys, House of the Dragon, Succession, Shrinking, Stranger Things, and Ted Lasso. And the winner, to absolutely nobody's surprise, is Succession with its 4th and final season. I have a feeling this will not be the last time that we see Succession winning an award this night. Needless to say, Succession had one of the greatest final season runs of any show. And this is also, for the record, a final season that we only found out was going to be a final season, I think about like 2 or 3 weeks before it actually premiered. So congratulations, Succession, on what I'm sure will be the first of many wins tonight. Next up, we have the nominees for Best Writing in order to honor, as we have talked about on many years past, writers. I think this one goes especially this year in wake of the writer strike that occurred this past summer, because if that doesn't demonstrate how important writers are to the whole creation of TV, movies, everything in entertainment and media that is we love, then I don't know what does. AI will never be able to replicate that. The nominees this year for Best Writing for a TV Show are Beau Willimon, One Way Out, Andor. Tawfiq Khalid, It Takes a Psycho, Barry. Gordon Smith, Point and Shoot, Better Call Saul. Peter Gould, Saul Gone, Better Call Saul. Ryan Condal, The Black Queen, House of the Dragon. Tommy Pico, I Still Believe, Reservation Dogs. Joe Kelly, Jason Sudeikis, and Brendan Hunt, So Long, Farewell, Ted Lasso. The Duffer Brothers, Chapter 9, The Piggyback, Stranger Things. And Jesse Armstrong, Church and State, Succession. And the winner is Jesse Armstrong, Church and State, Succession, the penultimate episode of Succession, the Logan Roy funeral episode. This was one of a couple of episodes from this overall season that were very, very, very heavily anticipated. Probably a lot of people are going to get mad that I didn't have the Connor's wedding on here. Understandably so. Look, there were a lot of great episodes from this past season of Succession. It was tough to pick them out, to say the least. And that's not even to go into the rest of the shows where I felt like it was just from a writing and directing standpoint, there was such a murderer's row to pick from. So I feel like no matter where I cut it, I was going to get some flack. But at the very least, Jesse Armstrong, congratulations. You killed it with the last season. Next up, we have the nominees for Best Director. And I do want to go out of my way and make a point of saying that Sam Esmail has talked about how television has evolved and really isn't a writer's or director's or anybody, one specific person's medium. It is a creative medium overall. And in recent years, just given the crazy amount of technological advances in storytelling that television has made, I feel like that makes the directors even more important. It's always like kind of like a catch-22 when I talk about directing for television, because you're ultimately, unless you are the showrunner yourself, you are ultimately bringing to life somebody else's vision. But it's always a great way to learn how to direct. And the thing that I always like about the directing nominations is that you get a good mix. You get a mix of showrunners who are almost entirely the singular creative vision of their shows, and then you get directors who, again, just come in, do one episode, and then usually kill it. So, without further ado, the nominees for Best Director are Toby Haynes, One Way Out, Andor. Donald Glover, The Goof Who Sat by the Door, Atlanta. Bill Hader, for all of Barry, Season 4. Christopher Storer and Joanna Callow, for The Bear. Vince Gilligan, Point and Shoot, Better Call Saul. Greg Yataines, The Black Queen, House of the Dragon. Peter Hoare, Long, Long Time, The Last of Us. The Duffer Brothers, Chapter 9, The Piggyback, Stranger Things. And Andrzej Parek, America Decides, Succession. And the winner is none other than Bill Hader for the final season of Barry. I mean, Barry was already like after its comeback after the 2 years where we didn't have it during COVID, already like completely surprised and amazed me with its third season. And needless to say, I was very, very depressed and distressed when I found out that it was ending. Not only that it was ending, but that it was going to be ending on the same night as Succession. The weeks that we had Barry and Succession running at the same time back to back on Sunday nights, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to get those 8 weeks of my life back, because that's just how good it was watching those two back to back. Bill Hader had said that he was going to direct every single episode this season, and while I will say that it may not have ended in as satisfying a manner as Succession did, just again, the level of craft and love that Bill Hader put into this thing, truly proving himself as a signature auteur filmmaker, not just as another really funny guy, the funny guy who does impressions on SNL. Bill Hader has solidified that reputation for himself with this final season of Barry. Next up, we have probably the dumbest award that I came up with when I originally started this thing, but honestly, it has become one of my favorites. I talk about this every year that we do this, the award for Best TV Duo, because again, you'll always get those like certain back and forths between, when characters get paired up often in TV shows, and they usually just result for some incredibly entertaining and usually really, really engaging moments, whether it's main character, supporting characters with main characters, guest one-offs, vice versa. You've got a wide variety gamut all across the board this year. And without further ado, the nominees are NoHo Hank and Cristobal from Barry. Jimmy McGill and Kim Wexler from Better Call Saul. Rhaenyra and Daemon Targaryen, House of the Dragon. Frank and Bob, The Last of Us. Shiv Roy and Tom Wamsgans, Succession. G. Gordon Liddy and Howard Hunt, White House Plumbers. The winner, once again to nobody's surprise, is Shiv and Tom. This Succession power couple had been building and bursting and building and bursting, especially after the events of the season 3 finale when Tom backstabbed the 3 Roy siblings. There was a lot of push-pull back and forth going on. Were him and Shiv going to get back together? Were they not? Was it going to ultimately implode? And it resulted in probably one of the best TV husband-wife arguments we've seen probably since Tony and Carmela in that infamous season 4 finale of The Sopranos, with the balcony scene that they shared in episode 7 of this final season entitled Tailgate Party, where they just let all of their strife and anger and bitter built-up feelings towards each other just let loose. It was a rich Emmy season, as they call it, and it ultimately proved why they have indeed won this year's award for Best TV Duo. Next up, we have the award for Best Voiceover Performance. Now, I will admit, when it comes to TV, this category is usually a little bit more hit or miss, just based off of 2 things. One, the fact that just overall voiceover in general on TV, I find, is not always as unique as it is in movies. And point number 2 is the fact that the types of voiceover performances that I typically tend to go towards are not the typical ones. You'll always see awards like Seth MacFarlane and all the people in The Simpsons and Dan Harmon and Rick and Morty, you know, all the typical adult animated stuff where they just do the same shtick over and over and over again for episodes on end, for seasons on end. A lot of people like that. For me, I don't. I like a little bit more story, especially when it comes to my animation. And unfortunately, this past year was kind of really barren in terms of unique and different types of animated shows. I think actually for this past, specifically, you know, from the fall of 22 to the spring of 2023, I think we really only had 2, and that's kind of reflected in the nominees, who are D. Bradley Baker, Star Wars: The Bad Batch; Matthew Mercer, The Legend of Vox Machina; Liam O'Brien, The Legend of Vox Machina; Sam Riegel, The Legend of Vox Machina; and Travis Willingham, The Legend of Vox Machina. Yeah, I could say right now this is probably the worst award of the night, and without question. But and to nobody's surprise, the winner is D. Bradley Baker for The Bad Batch. I mean, this guy has literally been voicing every single animated clone character ever since the Clone Wars was initially conceived back in 2008, and he continues to crush it. Somehow, all voicing a different iteration of the same character, but managing to inject just the perfect amount of uniqueness and different tenacity. Like, you would never, like, even though it's the same guy voicing all the members of the Bad Batch and all the other clones that you see on that show, you would never once like think like, oh, they're voiced by the same guy, you know, because it just, that's how unique he makes each character. Like, you don't mistake Tech for Wrecker, for Crosshairs, for Echo, for Rex, for Hunter, for any of them. You know, that's just how good of a job D. Bradley Baker is. And I don't know if he's been recognized enough in the mainstream award ceremony. Obviously, I've known this guy a long time, considering that he voiced a lot of icons from my childhood. We're into the acting categories now. We're starting off with the 2 guest categories, starting with Guest Actress. The nominees are Carol Burnett, Better Call Saul; Billie Eilish, Swarm; Sandrine Holt, Better Call Saul; Melanie Linsky, The Last of Us; Fiona Shaw, Andor; Anna Torv, The Last of Us; Harriet Walter, Succession. And the winner is Anna Torv. Now, this one I'm actually really happy about, because I will admit, even though I was not the biggest fan of The Last of Us TV show, Anna Torv, for her 2-episode appearance as Tess, crushed it. I love Anna Torv. I've been following her probably since Fringe, way back in the day. She's crushed it, and I really, really became a big fan of hers during her run on David Fincher's Mindhunter, but she's a great actress. Love her to death. Really, really happy that she won this one. Next up, the nominees for Best Guest Actor, and the nominees are Bobby Cannavale, Bupkis; Bryan Cranston, Better Call Saul; James Cromwell, Succession; Tony Dalton, Better Call Saul; Michael Irby, Barry; Nick Offerman, The Last of Us; Brad Pitt, Dave; Andy Serkis, Andor. The winner is Ron Swanson, aka Nick Offerman, for The Last of Us. I know that little joke that I put at the beginning there, I think it applies more than you would think, because this is the episode that everybody went nuts for, and I will say rightfully so. Despite my less than enthusiastic thoughts on The Last of Us adaptation, I will say that this is probably one of the best episodes of television I've ever seen, because you essentially had this entire beginning, middle, and end love story in the middle of this massive zombie apocalypse between 2 people just trying to find solace in their last moments. And Nick Offerman, who is pretty much just doing another version of Ron Swanson, but if he were in the apocalypse. I don't know if this is just a tribute to Parks and Rec fans and how many people loved him on there, or just the fact that we kind of always knew that he had this kind of a performance in him to portray the character of Bill. He had just really never been given the opportunity to do it. But whatever the case is, it was all of the cosmos aligning in order for him to give the absolute performance of his lifetime. Supporting actress. The nominees are Olivia Cooke, House of the Dragon; Sarah Goldberg, Barry; Rhea Seehorn, Better Call Saul; J. Smith Cameron, Succession. Sadie Sink, Stranger Things. Hannah Waddingham, Ted Lasso. Jessica Williams, Shrinking. Simona Tabasco, The White Lotus, Sicily. And the winner is Sadie Sink for Stranger Things. Now, I know, I will admit, I give the Emmys flack for this, for doing this shit all the time with the fucking cheating and the splitting seasons up and counting it for a previous season for the following year, even though it was only 2 episodes. And so I will admit, I definitely cheated a little bit as I did not nominate Sadie Sink for last year's Emmys, obviously, when the first 7 episodes of Stranger Things dropped. But sometimes you just gotta make an exception. And I think just given how much of a surprise it was that she ended up being one of the standouts of season 4, which already was a massive, massive improvement and kind of a comeback for Stranger Things. Sadie Sink in that last episode, her character just went through the ringer this season and she really carried it every single minute. I think it also helped that this kind of also lined up perfectly with her supporting performance in The Whale, which I also thought was an exceptional performance. Sadie's come a long way since we were first introduced to her in season 2 of Stranger Things. Next up, we have my favorite award of the night, the Supporting Actor Award. This category has become known for being the most dangerous and loaded category on the board. And just to give you guys an example, this category is so dangerous and loaded this year that I even upped the normal amount of nominees from 8 to 9 because that's how many people. I was trying to figure out who to cut, and I couldn't figure it out because these guys were all that great. So without further ado, here are the nominees for Best Supporting Actor. Jensen Ackles, The Boys. Nicholas Braun, Succession. Anthony Carrigan, Barry. Matthew McFadyen, Succession. Evan Moss Backrack, The Bear. Alexander Skarsgård, Succession. Stellan Skarsgård, Andor. Matt Smith, House of the Dragon. Anthony Starr, The Boys. Man, I am so glad that I opened the voting to you guys, to the public, because I would not have been able to pick a winner out of that group. Holy shit. We even got a little father-son competition action there between the Skarsgård father and son there, between Alexander and Stellan. But once again, to nobody's shock, the winner is Matthew McFadyen for Succession. I mean, he won the Emmy last year, very unexpectedly and surprisingly, but I think very much so well-deserved. It had to be McFadyen, since Culkin's in lead this year, it absolutely had to be McFadyen. He's Tom had kind of become that, slow, that very subtle, underplayed power player that slowly built his way up season by season by season, and this season, especially with him ultimately being the winner, the ultimate successor to Logan at the end of the day, with Mattson triumphing in his purchase of Waystar and installing Tom as the CEO over Shiv like it was originally planned. This win goes not just to McFadyen, but to Tom as well for being the ultimate winner of Succession. We're into the 2 leads now, actor and actress. And man, I always feel bad for Best Actress because I feel like it's always the most underserved one, because still to this day, at least in my opinion, we don't have enough good lead roles for women. But I was able to, at the very least, come up with 6, so that's something. The nominees are Rose Byrne, Physical. Emma Darcy, House of the Dragon. Dominique Fishback, Swarm. Sophie Nélisse, Yellow Jackets. Sarah Snook, Succession. Ali Wong, Beef. Winner is Sarah Snook for Succession. Snook and Culkin were both up to lead this year, and after watching this past season is understandably so, as the show kind of evolved past it being just a back and forth between Logan and Kendall, and really came to encompass, this season in particular, the siblings, as they started out obviously unified all against their father, and then kind of were ultimately split after his very untimely death, and then ultimately all decided to go about their own ways, as per usual, in order to ultimately try and fail to get at the top spot. And Shiv's arc this season especially capped off with her ultimate decision to backstab her brothers, allow for Mattson to come in and purchase the company. It was an unexpected move, and a lot of people were kind of confused as to okay, Shiv literally had the power of the sun in the palm of her hand. Why would she have given that up? And again, I mean, to me, it just 2 reasons. One, Shiv has always been the type of character that will cut off her nose to spite her own face. She has constantly subverted and undercut her chance at power. And number 2, the fact that she ultimately saw between being a number 3 to her brothers versus a number 2 to Tom. At the end of the day, a queen is still a queen at the end of the day. The penultimate award of the night. The number 2 to the big crowning achievement of Best Overall Show, Best Lead Actor. We had 2 co-leads this year. I believe actually for the first time in Talkin TV history. I might have to go back and check that. But yeah, I believe that this is the first time that we have 2 co-leads from one show. And without further ado, the nominees for Best Actor are Paddy Considine, House of the Dragon. Kieran Culkin, Succession. Bill Hader, Barry. Bob Odenkirk, Better Call Saul. Jason Segel, Shrinking. Jeremy Strong, Succession. Stephen Yeun, Beef. Unfortunately, I tried, but I couldn't find it in myself to nominate Brian Cox for lead, considering that he really was only in 3 episodes of the show. Not to mention the fact that we had a little bit of a Bill Lawrence upset, if you will. Jason Segel coming in to steal Sudeikis' spot. I wanted to nominate Sudeikis again, but I have a little bit of controversial thoughts on this most recent season of Ted Lasso, but I'll save them for a later date. But the winner is Kieran Culkin for Succession. Strong one last year, but Culkin, oh man. I mean, if this is a show that Roman had ultimately become the fan favorite character of Succession, I go back and forth all the time on who really was the fan favorite character between Roman and Tom. They both won their Talkin TV awards now. You know, whether Culkin will come in and actually win the Emmy this year the way that McFadden won last year, who knows? But all I know is that Roman Roy as a character has evolved so much since he was first introduced in that first episode, where he's just like, again, this shit-eating little trust fund brat who is just there to crack one-liners and make fun of everybody. And he has evolved so much to become a hollowed out shell of a youngest sibling, bullied by his siblings, mentally, physically, and emotionally abused by his father. I don't even know if Roman wanted the top spot at the end. I mean, he even finally admits it in the finale. It's like, yeah, we ultimately didn't deserve this, and it's probably better off that we don't have it. And he, in a weird way, is kind of the only one that actually finally gets some zen and peace at the end of it. You know, all of his little stammerings, his murmurs, his constantly using crass humor and self-defamation in order to cover up his insecurities, all just result in a performance that I think goes a little bit deeper than we all realize. But Culkin, I mean, it's been one of the signature TV performances of the last couple of years, and we're certainly going to miss him. We've reached it. The final award of the night. The crowning prize of the Talkin TV Awards. The award for Best Overall Show. And the nominees are Andor on Disney+, Barry, the final season on HBO, Beef on Netflix, Better Call Saul, the second part of the 6th and final season on AMC, The Boys, Season 3 on Amazon, House of the Dragon on HBO, Succession, the 4th and final season on HBO, Shrinking on Apple TV+, Ted Lasso, the 3rd and potentially final season, on Apple TV+, and The Last of Us on HBO. And the only thing that I wanted to say before I announce the winner is that with this most recent season of Ted Lasso, first of all, the fact that Apple TV still can't figure out and definitely tell us whether this was the final season or not, I have no idea, but especially considering how the show wrapped up so perfectly with that final episode, I mean, how could it not be? But whatever the case may be, the winner is Succession. I mean, come on, after everything, after all the awards that it's won tonight, after everything that the show had built up to this final season, I mean, like I said, you got to consider a couple things. Number one, the fact that Jesse Armstrong only announced, like, when the second trailer dropped, which I believe was back in February, only about a month before the show premiered, that it was going to be the final season. The fact that, you know, people were speculating that pretty much almost everything that people had predicted was going to happen in this season did happen, but the fact that it was still as surprising and unexpected as it was, and the fact that, once again, just the power of Jesse Armstrong and this writing team and how they managed to keep people on their toes back and forth. Were the siblings going to get it? Were they not? All the way up until the grand finale when, shockingly, none of the siblings ended up getting it. These guys, ultimately, they were like Icarus. They flew just a little bit too close to the sun. Now, whether that was the final message that Succession was going for, who knows? But it's what I took away from it, because, again, just it sucks because, I mean, you guys saw how many of these shows are over and ending. You know, Succession is one of many great shows that are ending that we are losing this year. I'm really gonna miss it. I don't know when we're gonna get another show quite like it, and it's been quite a ride these last couple of years. And with that being said, that's it. It's another year of the Talkin TV Awards. God damn it, I can't believe that I've done 4 of these now, but I love it. I love all you guys for continuing to watch it. I love all you guys for continuing to vote and continue to support my silly dream of one day actually finally making it big as a real legitimate movie critic. But I don't care. Like I said, I just do these for fun. I do it because I love it, and I do it because I love you guys. Everybody who continues to tune in and watch these every single year. I hope you guys continue to tune in for these as I continue to do them year after year. And be sure to continue to tune in to the Talkin TV podcast as we continue to put out content every single week, all the way up until the end of the year, covering all of the big major releases, everything that's going on with the strike, everything that's going on with the status of Hollywood. and the entertainment business in general. You know, if you like what we do here, click the subscribe button down below, leave a comment, let us know what your thoughts are. Also, be sure to go over to all of our social media pages at Talkin TV Podcast across all things: Facebook, Instagram, X. I hate that I have to say that now. TikTok as well. Be sure to also follow us on Twitch as well, and on Spotify and all of our audio pages. And as always, people, 12 seasons in a short film, and watch more fucking movies. We'll see you guys next time.